You know, the strange thing about giant machines is most of us never notice them until something stops working. We drive through tunnels, switch on the lights, and live in cities built from millions of tons of material. We often don't consider the machines that make it all work. Some of them walk on enormous steel feet. Some machines can dig right through mountains, and as they move, they build a tunnel behind them. Some machines are so big that the person running them looks really small compared to the machine itself. That's what Gear Junkie is about. Not just showing you something huge, but getting close enough to figure out who's behind it, what it's used for, and how it really makes a difference in people's lives. So, let's take a closer look. Okay, so from the shore, Spartacus looks like a very big ship. But that's not really what it is. It's more like a floating rock-cutting factory. At the front, a heavy cutter head spins into sand, clay, and hard ground below the water.
Pumps then pull that broken material into a pipe and send it away as a thick mix of soil and water. Sounds simple, right? Well, Spartacus is 164 meters long, 34 meters wide, and has more than 44,000 kilowatts of installed power. That's roughly 59,000 horsepower. It can dig down to 45 meters, and its discharge pipe is 1.2 meters wide.
That's not really a hose anymore.
That's basically a tunnel.
So why build something this huge? Because ports slowly fill with sand and mud, shipping channels become too shallow, coastlines need protection, and growing cities sometimes need new land. Spartacus can cut art seabed, deepen routes for ships, pump the material somewhere useful. On its first major job at Abu Qir in Egypt, it joined a fleet working on a project involving more than 150 million cubic meters of dredging, 1,000 hectares of new land. Here's the part I like. The massive cutter ladder can be controlled from the bridge by one person. Spartacus was also the first cutter suction dredger able to run on LNG, and it even recovers heat from its engines to produce electricity. So, yeah, it looks like it's just moving mud, but in reality, it's helping ports stay open, cities grow, and coastlines take a completely new shape. That's Spartacus, part ship, part giant power tool, and honestly, a pretty wild way to build a coastline.
You know what's funny? At a snowy airport, everyone watches the planes. But some of the most important machines are down on the runway, racing the weather. This is the VAMAS PSB 5500-5. No, it isn't just a really big snowplow. It's basically 3 snow removal machines built into one very long, very strange-looking vehicle. Snow on a runway doesn't have to be deep to cause trouble. Even a thin layer of snow, slush, or ice can reduce the grip between an aircraft's tires and the pavement. Less grip means weaker braking and less control. And when you're trying to stop a fully loaded passenger jet, that matters a lot. So the job here isn't simply to make the runway look clean. The real job is to bring the grip back.
First, the front blade pushes away the heavy snow. Then, a huge rotating broom attacks the thin layer left behind. And finally, an air nozzle blasts away the loose snow that the blade and brush couldn't catch. 3 steps, all during the same pass. The machine is about 21 meters long and weighs roughly 31 tons before the plow is even attached. With the blade straight, it can span about 9 meters. That's wide enough to cover a serious chunk of runway in one go. And while it's working, it can travel at around 40 to 60 kilometers per hour. That may not sound wild for a car, but imagine driving a 30-ton machine that fast while controlling a plow, a giant broom, and a blower at the same time. Yeah, I'd probably start a little slower. The air coming from the rear nozzle can reach about 430 kilometers per hour. That's faster than the wind inside most tornadoes. Its job is to chase the final dusting of snow off the pavement before it freezes into a slippery layer. And here's a detail I really like. The PSV uses both wheel steering and an articulated frame. That helps the plow, brush, and blower follow nearly the same path through a turn. Without that, the back of a machine this long would cut across the runway like a badly driven trailer. When the snow becomes too deep for normal clearing, Vamas has another answer. The B405 snowblower can process as much as 3,000 tons of snow per hour and throw it up to 45 meters away. Dry powder, heavy wet snow, it's built to deal with both. And Vamas even developed a special plow for clearing snow around runway edge lights. The front section opens around each light, while small brushes clean the area without smashing the equipment. It's a tiny detail, but pilots need those lights when visibility gets bad. The first Vamas airport machine was delivered in Finland back in 1982. Since then, these machines have ended up at airports around the world. Most passengers will never notice them. They'll sit at the gate, complain about a short delay, and then fly away without thinking about the crew outside. But during a real snowstorm, machines like this are the reason the runway can reopen, the planes can keep moving, and thousands of people can get home safely. So yeah, it looks like a snowplow, but what it's really clearing is the way forward. You know that old tree near a road or building site? The one that's probably been standing there longer than most of the houses around it? Usually, when construction reaches that tree, that's the end of the story. But the Big John 90D gives it another option. This machine doesn't simply pull a tree out of the ground. Heavy steel blades slowly slide down around the trunk and meet underneath it, lifting the tree together with a huge piece of soil. That part matters. The goal is to move the tree with as much of its root system and familiar ground as possible. And honestly, the first lift is the tense part. You're not moving a steel beam. You're carrying something alive, something that may have taken decades to grow. The Big John 90D can handle trees with trunks around 10 to 12 inches thick. The root ball can be 90 inches wide and about 5 feet deep. When it comes out of the ground, that single block of soil and roots can weigh close to 11,800 pounds. Yeah, that's roughly the weight of a large elephant hanging behind a truck. So maybe don't park too close. The tree spade itself weighs more than 16,000 pounds, but the whole system can be controlled by one operator. It also has stabilizing pads to keep the truck steady, leveling equipment for trees that naturally lean, and an onboard water supply that can help during difficult digging or longer moves. The blades are built to work through hard, rocky, and sandy soil, because trees rarely grow exactly where the job is easy. Then, once the tree is lifted, the machine lowers it onto the truck and carries it to a new hole prepared with the same spade. A tree that might have been cut down can now stand somewhere else, maybe beside a new home,
maybe in a park, maybe just a few hundred feet from where it spent most of its life. The Big John doesn't grow a new tree overnight. It saves the years that nature already put into the old one. And honestly, that may be the coolest thing this machine can do.